After the split round for the international break, the A-League women continued with some highly surprising results as the Wanderers claimed their first scalp of the season. The Jets become the latest side to defeat the Sky Blues. Melbourne City begin to create a small gap at the top of the table, and Brisbane eventually defeated the Mariners following a 24-hour delay, which saw Alex Smith and Emily Husband get the buckets out to try and save the originally scheduled fixture to no avail on this episode of the Dubcast, part of the Roundball Australia network. My name is Poletti, and joining me, as always, is Burke. It's just the two of us tonight again, Burke.
Yeah, it could be worse. It could be worse,
It could just be me here, dear God.
but it's not.
No, it's not. It's not. There's two of us, and we're going to get through the weekend's action as quickly as we can. So, Burke, looking back on a crazy week in Australian women's football, what was your biggest storyline from the weekend?
It was it was absolutely crazy. I want to say it's a tie between the Wanderers finally and winning like emphatically and Sydney FC's descent into hell. So I think it's got to be either of those ones. Whatever's going on in Sydney, it's very strange. Very strange.
Well, what I think we'll do then is I think we'll start with the Wanderers because I've got a feeling we're going to spend quite a little bit of time talking about Sydney FC and Newcastle. So we'll get the Wanderers out of the way first. 5-1 scoreline. Sienna Silvestre with a hat trick inside 27 minutes. Kush LaRue made it 4-0 before the break. And then Danica Matos got her first A-League women goal after like 74 attempts, or 74 matches in the competition. And you could see just the emotion that poured out of her and indeed the rest of the squad in celebration. Amy Harrison missed a penalty in there as well, and Chloe Lagazzo successfully converted her penalty in the second half, albeit a consolation goal at that point in the game. The Wanderers were very strong across the park in all areas. Who would have thought that giving a talented 18-year-old the keys to the attack would result in not only a victory, but such a dominant victory, Burke?
Not me. I wouldn't have thought that. Not a chance. Sienna Silvestre, who's that? She's not the player that multiple clubs had been clamoring after. What? That was an insane game. I had been like utterly cleaning the house whilst it was happening and like intermittently checking my laptop and checking the phone. And every time I kind of came back, I was like, wait, what? Wonders? What? Wonders? For a few minutes, like, because it just kept going. They didn't stop. It was like that meme from The Simpsons. Stop killing him. He's already dead. They were dead. Western United were dead. Yeah, it was really good to see the Wanderers pulling out the performance that everyone kind of thought they were capable of at the start of the season. I don't know why it's taken them this long to do it, but good for them and good for all of their very, very tragic fans.
I mean, it seems insane to look at it and think that it's taken Robbie Hooker 6 rounds to work out that trust in Sienna Silvestre. I mean, I know she's 18. I know she's young. She's been at the Wanderers already. She's been at Sydney FC. She basically rode the bench in both of those seasons. And now, this is essentially her breakout performance at an A-League women level. She looked quality throughout the NPL Women's New South Wales season and has for quite some time. I mean, surely whatever game plan that the Wanderers came into this game with, they have to stick with it, right? Like, this is the spark that they need to turn their season around, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm imagining them in like the back rooms surrounded by shredders and putting through all of their like preseason plans and like first few week plans just through them, being like, we never did this. We never ever thought of doing anything but this, and you can't prove otherwise, because that's what I would be doing personally. If I had been absolutely rubbish for 5 games and then came out like that, I would immediately be pretending like the first 5 weeks had never happened. Now have they do that? Yes, they should. Um, yeah, they have to keep doing this. It's a shocking, like shockingly, it worked. And you don't try to fix what isn't broken because it's worked. They need to copy paste this performance for the rest of the entire season. Whether or not they can do that is an entirely different story, but that is what they should be doing.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Um, for Western United here, look, for me, there were some redeeming qualities in like the first 20-25 minutes. They looked good. I mean, sometimes you're just going to concede an Olympico. It happens. It's not anything to be like, okay, we've conceded. It's a freak goal. It maybe could have been better defending from the corner, but it happens. They're not the first side to concede an Olympico. They won't be the last. Then they conceded the second, and sort of like okay, we're gonna fall apart. And oh boy, did they ever fall apart. They're now outside of the top 6 on goal difference. Sasha Grove gave away her second penalty of the season. She seems to be struggling a little bit to adapting to life at Western United as part of a new team. Certainly not the Sasha Grove that we've seen in the past. For Western, this game to me just seems like very much a case of it happened. Let's move on.
Yeah, you can't. I don't think they can afford to performance-wise or outcome-wise. They really do just have to take it like driving over a speed bump and just hit the gas now that they're over. Because yeah, that was not good at all. I'm glad they got their like consolation goal, but really not not what you expect from Western United at all. It, but again, they've been having kind of weird sort of because really being consistent. So I guess like it kind of it kind of makes sense that they lose this game, but it didn't make sense that they lost it this badly, kind of thing. Yeah, they cannot dwell on this. They must persist.
Yeah, I mean they're off to Gosford this weekend, who
Oh,
just suffered a loss to Brisbane Roar. So they'll be looking to rebound strongly at home. For Western, I mean, like I said, they just need to put this game behind them. They need to sort out something and just if they sort of don't come out strong in this game, then I think we might have to start asking some uncomfortable questions of Western United. Which won't be the first side we're asking very uncomfortable questions about this season in terms of their title contendership. As we move on to Sydney FC 1, Newcastle Jets 2. Oh boy, there is so much to break down in this game. So Danielle Krasiniak got a red card in the 12th minute for denial of an obvious goal scoring opportunity. Her second red card of the season, which was incredibly avoidable. To go with her yellow card, the 2 previous cards for a handball outside of the box. Indiana Dos Santos scored Sydney's lone goal in the 22nd minute. Devon Thompson scored an equaliser around the 85th minute, and then Lauren Allen, literally in the depths of stoppage time with seconds to go, gives Newcastle a historic victory over Sydney FC, I believe, in over 6 years. I mean, I don't even know where I want to start with this one. So you know what? I think we'll just do it exactly as I've written it down in the rundown. We'll start with Krasiniak. It's a second red card, a very avoidable yellow card. What does Tiana Robinson have to do to get the starting job, Burke? Because she's clearly looked the better of the 2 goalkeepers. She more than held her own here against Sydney FC. And I know some people will talk to her height as an issue, but the reality is she wouldn't have gotten to the A-League women level if she wasn't able to compensate for her height.
yeah. I don't think she really needs to do much to get the job because Breziniak seems to want her to have it too. Um, it's- I, ju- I just don't understand. How, we spoke about it obviously as well in the other podcast that I'm on. Just how do you do that in the 12th minute? In the 12th minute, people are barely breaking a sweat in the 12th minute. That was astounding. I think was this game also on the Saturday? I think it was.
Yes, it
I
was on a
was I
Saturday.
was
Yes.
also I was still cleaning and I was still you seen that meme of like Mr. Krabs and he's like taken. That's what I looked like from the Wanderers game. So I was still like that and I was still trying to clean and then there was a spider and then this happened. And I was just I don't know what to say about the red card because it just doesn't make any sense. How has she gotten two red cards in the space of not even 6 rounds because she'd already missed one game? How was I? Where did the Jets find her? Where did they find her? Whoever her agent is needs to be blacklisted from the league. I, I don't know. I don't know. I skipped back on Paramount to actually see the moment. Couldn't even begin to fathom if that's what must have been going through her mind to be like, yeah, let's do this. Just utterly bizarre. I don't think if the Jets were a serious football club, which I'm not accusing them of being, I would never do that. Um, if they were a serious club, we would not see Christine playing again. But this is the dub, and whatever happens, you simply can't predict or tell. So we may well see her in 2 weeks' time, unfortunately. And then she may immediately get another red card. Who knows? Not me.
I don't think anyone knows. I mean, look, I said a similar thing where I on social media where I feel that this is very much a if she sees the field again, barring injury, I think questions need to be asked as to why. But you said that you were doing some cleaning there, looking, while you were watching this, and you came across a spider. I mean, if Krasiniak wants to improve her goalkeeping, I believe Zelko Kalic might be available. I'm just saying there could be, for some private one-on-one sessions. I hear he's a good goalkeeper, um, a good goalkeeper. So I'm just saying there might be something in that.
It can't get worse, right? And now
It
that I've
can
said
always get
that,
worse.
now that I've said that,
It can always get worse. I mean, I know Newcastle have sort of played a very high line, not only in defense but with their keeper this year. But I don't quite know how to explain this because it was close enough to the 18-yard box that like she had a genuine choice to make as to whether she came for the ball or to whether she retreated and tried to cut off the shot. Claudia Chico was right there. She made the wrong decision. She could have easily backpedaled, and sort of got in front of goal. Maybe you get chipped, but it is what it is.
it's the
I
12th
don't,
minute of the game. You just have to keep them. Like, if you're going to get chipped, you're just going to get chipped in the 12th minute of the game. That's fine.
yeah, no, I completely agree. I look, like I said, I think if she's in the field again this season, questions need to be asked. But I'm not a coach. I don't get paid to live and die by these criticisms. I get paid to talk crap behind a microphone. So that's what I'm going to continue to do. Um, but one thing I can do is look at numbers and make conclusions based on said numbers. Um, Sydney FC won. Quote from Ante Juric, disappointing. I thought that was our worst performance of the year in terms of energy, effort, front third. We had a couple of chances, but it wasn't good at all. We didn't deserve anything from that. Everyone needs to step up. There was not one performer I think that was up to the level today. Now, I look at Sydney FC, and I haven't been quiet in terms of what I've made of the start of the season here on the Dubcast. I think anyone who's listened would know that I was very critical when we did our season preview. Now, in terms of start of the season for Sydney FC, I did a little bit of deep diving into the numbers, and there's going to be a piece coming out on Round Ball Australia later this week, which will be written by Christian Montague, which is going to take a look at Ante Juric and whether or not this is the right season for him to depart at the end of to end his Sydney FC tenure. The numbers that we're going to have a look at here. So we're going to use first third of the season or first 6 games as part of his tenure. So because obviously mixed number seasons, a few 12-game and 14-game seasons in there with what we've got at the moment. So in 2017-18, first third of the season, loss, win. 18-19, win, loss. 19-20 was win, loss. 4 wins in 21-22. And then we've got 22-23, or have I got my numbers mixed up? No, so that was 2020-21 was 4 wins to start the season in the first third. And then we've got win, draw, win in 21-22. A year in which they went to go finish first in the regular season, grand final loss to the Victory. First 6 games, the 18-game season in 2022-23 was loss followed by 5 wins, and then we've got 23-24 win, draw. First 6 games of a 22-game season. Second home and away grand final win. And then to start this season, we've got loss, win, draw, loss. So
Definitely looking like a
unequivocally,
bell curve.
what was that?
It looks kind of like a bell curve to me.
Yes. Unequivocally, bar maybe 17-18 in a 12-game season, where you look at the first third being 4 games, this is unequivocally his worst start to a season as Sydney FC coach. I mean, I don't know. Like, I know we sort of have to put the caveat here where they have lost a lot of key players. They do have some injuries to be dealing with, and there's a lot of new players who need to learn Ante's system, especially players who are playing in positions that they're not necessarily used to playing in, or have only started to play in that position under Ante's time as coach. But this is a team that has never missed the finals in club history. They're at real risk of doing that this season if they don't turn this around quick. I said, the numbers state that this is unequivocally the worst start under his tenure. His contract is up at the end of the 2025-26 season. It was supposed to be up at the end of this season, but he did sign an extension. I mean, he's just taken the Sydney United job as well. And that creates a very interesting discussion point here because he has done this before with Sydney Olympic. He joined them in 2018 as, I believe it was technical director of the club. He took over coaching the first grade side in 2020. 2 COVID-affected seasons there in 2020 and 2021. His full season as Sydney Olympic first grade coach, they won the premiership, weren't able to win the championship. And that was also a season where, if we look at what Sydney FC did, it was first in the home and away season, grand final loss, first in the home and away season, and a grand final win across the 2021-22 and the 2022-23 season. So there is a very small sample size there of 1 NPL season and 2 dub seasons to suggest that this might be tenable, but it's very different here. You look at Sydney, you look at where Sydney FC are, the extension of the dub season to 22 games. I can't imagine United Round's going to stick around next season, but that's a different discussion to have entirely. So we're looking at 22 games plus finals. It's a 30-game NPL season plus finals plus cup competition. And then you've got the national second tier, which is kicking off as sort of like a Champions League group stage, um, which will overlap with the 25-26 dub season. And then there's still the aim from Football Australia for a full NST season, which the FA want to be fully professional in 2026. Like, for me, I think the answer is clear that this is probably the best time for him to depart Burke. And sorry to sort of go in with a leading question there. So I'll ask it this way. Is the end of this season the best time for Ante Juric to depart, in your opinion?
Even if they can't turn this season around from here, I think it has to be, unfortunately. And that's not to like knock what Ante's done. Sydney have been unbelievably successful as a team and as a club. And that's definitely a huge part because of him. But yeah, like you've said, the numbers don't lie. They have not been performing to the expectations that everyone has of them, which, are rightfully expected of them, given history as a club. And if he's going to be doing the split coaching thing where he is coaching in the dub and in NPL, you'd have to think he's kind of in two minds anyway. Obviously, the reason that he does the split coaching is because the job with Sydney FC isn't a full-time paid, like it isn't a full-time position, which is completely understandable that he wants to do, that he needs to supplement his income. We all know there's a cost of living crisis. I'm not saying he's wrong to do that. It's just, unfortunately, it does look like it is going to be time for him to move on to something else, unless they can, turn this season around dramatically and emphatically and very, very quickly. They need to come out tomorrow, basically, having scored 80 goals.
Yeah, I mean, time is running out. They've got a trip to Wellington this weekend. They then welcome Melbourne Victory in for the Big Blue. Melbourne Victory sitting well inside the top six at the moment. And then they've got Melbourne City, followed by a trip out west to go face Perth Glory, then home Canberra, and then home to the Mariners. That's a very tough run of games in the next month. Um, and I wouldn't even say there's an easy fixture in any of them. Like a trip west to go face Perth is a tough challenge in and of itself, regardless of how they're performing. I think that, I think it's incredibly tough to think that Sydney FC are just going to pick up wins anywhere in that stretch of games, Burke.
Yeah, yeah, it's going to be a really, really tough slog for them. They, yeah, it has to be like a coaching masterclass and a team effort. Like every single player on that squad has to decide that they're not losing any more games this season, which is an easy enough thing to ask of the players that have been there for a long time. But when you're younger and newer to the league or to the club, it's not an easy thing to front up and say, yeah, we're not losing any more games. Like if you're an 18-year-old, it's not something you can really put on them. But unfortunately, it's like that in sports. Sometimes your team is just bad, and that is the way it goes.
Yeah, I just before we move on from this, I do want to touch, just back on the Sydney United role briefly. And yes, this is a dub cast. We do primarily talk about women's football, but here this is where men's and women's football interlink a lot more than we would like them to. I think back to a recent event that Sydney FC ran for their Pride membership, and the question was asked, admittedly by myself, um, around Ante and his role at Sydney United. And I asked it very much from an LGBTQIA lens. We're not going to go into Sydney United on that side of things here. But, and the Sydney FC CEO, Mark Aubrey, said that, the idea behind letting Ante take that job was because they wanted to keep him. And, you don't want to let a talented coach like that go. And that's something I totally understand from a Sydney FC perspective. But, we've sort of touched on this already. Sydney United are in preseason right now as we speak. There was a trial match versus Sydney Olympic scheduled for Sunday, which was postponed. All Sydney United, Sydney Olympic fixtures as part of the trial matches were postponed that day. I can only imagine it had something to do with the horrendous heat that hit Sydney on the weekend. They're set to face the Wanderers Academy in a trial, first grade men's trial on Wednesday night, which is the night that you will be listening to this, the day of release of this episode, followed by another first grade trial match against Hurstville Zagreb on Sunday, the 12th of January, and then Sydney FC Men's Academy on Friday, January 17. Like, surely this is somewhat of a distraction. Like, now, Mark Aubrey did make it clear that Sydney FC come first under his coaching commitments with Sydney United. So if there's ever, what's the term I'm looking for here? Clashing fixtures, he has to be at the Sydney FC fixture. That has to be his priority, that sort of thing. But, like, you can't tell me he's not distracted and doesn't have one eye on setting up his assistant coaches to coach against this side, train them during the week, all that sort of vibe ahead of, these trial matches and then preseason training throughout the week. Like, I mean, I don't want to use the word distraction, but, like, it has to be a distraction, right?
Yeah, it kind of can't not be. There's no real way you could, like, genuinely, physically, and totally, like, separate the two because they're happening at the same time. Like, it's not like your brain can just go, yes, I'm focusing. I mean, maybe he's can. I don't know. Maybe he's magical and he can think about two things separately, consistently. I can't. Well, but yeah, maybe he can do that. I don't know how much I would put on that being true though. Yeah, because yeah, both the jobs are happening. He has to work at both of them, so he has to be thinking about both of them. It's a very sticky situation, a very interesting kettle of fish. Oh, I'll say that much.
It is, and I've got a feeling that this won't be the last time we talk about this season. I say that knowing full well I write the rundown. I have control over what we talk about. But yes, no, head to roundballaustralia.com.au later in the week, and you'll be able to read that article from Christian Montigan, looking at everything we've just discussed. But there are other games that we have to talk about, and we've already spent nearly half an hour across just the two Sydney teams. So we'll go to your part of the world next, Emma. We will go to Melbourne City 4, Canberra United 2. For me, this was a standout Melbourne City performance. They're already one of the competition's most dominant teams. They showed why here. They had a highly improved conversion rate of shots to shots on target, which shows that they're being less wasteful. I mean, Holly McNamara makes a return after more than a year out. She looked like she had not missed a beat, looking at just her performance in her 20-ish minutes. Besides the two goals which they gave up to Michelle Heyman, Canberra. City really did not put a foot wrong in this game. And given the improvement in their attack, although I think you would like to see that rate come down even more, surely improved finishing, the question then becomes who can actually stop them from doing the double if they can consistently keep it up.
Yeah, I wouldn't say many people could. They do seem to be getting better and better each week. But I personally am still a bit, what's the word I'm looking for now? I don't know. I'm not completely sold on their stability because they just love coughing up goals first. like I just want to know if in those like club rooms they've considered um leading a game and not conceding and trailing and having to dig themselves out of holes. Because I would love that. I don't know if they want that because it doesn't look like it. However, that's the only real thing for me that stands out as like I guess the last thing really left to improve on. The defense is good. It just seems like, well, Michelle Heyman is Michelle Heyman. There's only really so many times you can deny her before she does something just insane and is just completely unstoppable. Um, but yeah, I loved seeing Polly Mack back on the field where she is meant to be. And when human beings evolve the ACL out, the party I throw will be for the ages. Um, yeah, and she looked great from everything that I saw. And yes, it technically wasn't an assist, but it was to me. McKenna goal was her assist to me, and that's what matters.
Oh no, I completely agree, and I think no one but the statisticians who have to keep track of these things would try to take that away from Holly McNamara. On the Canberra side of things, so Beth Gordon returned from injury in this game. She made her season debut for Canberra after leaving the Wanderers. She looked incredibly good in her 20 minutes on the pitch as well. She set Heyman up for that second goal. For me, I do want to talk about this Heyman goal in particular because for me, she just stood there. And so the passage of play, for those who haven't seen it, Gordon takes the corner, comes out to like a 45-degree angle of the 18-yard box. I think it was to Darcy Malone. Gordon makes the run, comes back, Malone sends the pass, and then at basically like in a flat line, pass straight into Heyman, who's standing there, who taps it home almost as effortlessly as you can from 12 yards out, um, past the goalkeeper to give Canberra a momentary hope that they might rescue a point from that game, which I thought that they were good for. Um, they certainly played like they deserved to leave with something until Holly McNamara said, no, 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 we're winning this game, which is completely fair. For me, the Heyman goal, and I'm going to make a bit of a niche reference here, reminded me very much of, for those who watch the NHL, very much like Alex Ovechkin on the power play, where he sets up in the left face off dot, um, and he doesn't leave there for the entire 2 minutes, and that's basically his office. And you know what's coming. It's going to be a pass, comes out to Ovechkin, one time a shot, and yet you can't stop it. And that's very much what this reminded me of, where it's just like Michelle Heyman, she's just setting up, she's inside her office, and if she gets the ball, like you're not going to stop her from scoring. Um, so yeah, just a little bit of a tidbit there. Um, the defense for Canberra wasn't great, but it was against a quality City attack who have hurt a lot of sides who have quality defenses. But
Yeah, yeah, I can't really blame Canberra for that. They did have a couple of defensive changes as well in the offseason, which they're still, I guess, reckoning with losing Sasha Grove and was Cannon Clough who left as well. Um,
I know Cannon Clough left. I don't believe she was with Canberra.
was she? I'm making things up now. Damn, that's fun for me.
Let's have a look. Oh no, it was Canberra. My apologies. Why did I think
I'm
Cannon
not
Clough was
making
somewhere
things
else?
up. Mm,
Why did I think Cannon Clough was somewhere else?
Thank God for that, because that would have really unsettled me for a while if I just had that wrong and that. But
Okay,
yeah, so
so I'm just I'm
they've
just
had some
looking at Cannon
defensive
Clough's
personnel.
team history here.
Yeah.
So Lions FC, Brisbane Roar, Newcastle Jets, Lions FC, Canberra United, and then to Carolina. For some reason, I completely blanked out her time at Canberra United. Um,
Yeah, yeah, but yeah, losing a couple of defensive players, obviously still dealing with that. But that Heyman goal that you just spoke about was stupid. I hate short corners. I hate them so much. I don't care if they statistically give you more goals. Comparatively, I don't care if you hit them. And I hate them even more when they're used against their teams. And they were. That was crazy work from Canberra. It looked like a training session drill. I was so mad seeing it going. I think the only person who was more annoyed than I was Rebecca State. Because if you watch the footage back, he immediately jumps up and down. Like he's so angry. It was like, but that's my captain. And that shows you how committed she is. She just absolutely infuriated by it because it was so good and so unstoppable. Yeah, I think Canberra has a lot of positives to take from this, showing that you can score not one but two goals against a top team like City, especially considering where Canberra was at last season, is huge. So I don't want to, even though it was a loss, I don't want to discredit that for any of it really. That and it was technically a 3-3 draw, technically, because Maya Markovsky did score that goal. It just wasn't for her team.
So all I took from that, Burke, was short corners are woke nonsense.
That's exactly what they said on Beyond 90. So woke nonsense. No more of it. I've had it. The
And I have
worst.
not listened to that podcast this week, so that was an original thought, even though it wasn't.
Cliffler.
So we will head now to Brisbane. Brisbane 2, Central Coast Mariners 1. This game was originally scheduled for Saturday afternoon, delayed because of weather, which also saw the cricket delayed and still continues to be delayed um, as the weather continues to wreak havoc in southeast Queensland. The pitch was flooded. So many volunteers were getting the mops out, getting the brooms out, doing everything they can to get this pitch in a condition that was suitable for play, including the two coaches, with Alex Smith and Emily Husband getting buckets out and using them correctly to try to scoop water off the pitch. Um, just on that point, I know we've talked ad nauseum about Perry Park and it needing an upgrade. Surely this needs to be just added to the long list of reasons you need an upgrade as an improved drainage system, right?
Fully, they just start like, probably they just take that footage and send it to like the club officials being like, hey, you'll see this? It was streamed to the
Queen-
public. They
Queensland
all saw
government, let's
us.
go.
Hello? At least that's what I'd be doing. I'd be like sending it. I'd be sending it in the most like spam looking emails that are gonna like strip all of your credit card information, being like, look at this. Click here for horrible water park drama. Something like that. That they like that some poor person clicks on, not really understanding what's going on, and then instead gets that video of the coaches with buckets. Yeah. But the pitch is like right on the edge of the river, which is why this kind of thing happens. So yeah, they should maybe, much like in Victoria, Flemington Racecourse, which was built on marshlands, they should stop acting surprised when these things happen. So God forbid the nature does what it has always done. It doesn't change if you put a racing track or a football pitch on it. Nature will persevere.
This is true. I also think it should create the case for any Perry Park redevelopment to have a roof. That way, you can sort of mitigate these sorts of circumstances from happening. Um, but onto the game itself. All three goals in this game were absolute quality and well taken. Deborah Ann Della Harp, Tiana Fuller, who now has 2 goals in 2 dub games after coming out of Football New South Wales Institute Academy this season and into the Mariners. Um, Tamika Yallop with the eventual winner, almost sort of like a spawning salmon as she leapt across away from goal, heading it back across the face of goal over the keepers to sneak it inside the post here. I mean, I don't quite know how to look at this game. Like, Brisbane controlled the game. They looked good for their win. The Mariners set up tightly away from home. Probably unlucky to leave with a loss. Should have had a draw. And on a different day, they might have. I mean, uh, for you, Burke, is this a game where sort of the right result played out, or Mariners unlucky?
I would say Mariners probably a bit unlucky because there was that unreal chance from Annalie Rasmussen where the ball like hit the post and kind of like bounced around like a pinball machine looking thing. And you just kind of sat there thinking, why hasn't that, or how has that not crossed the line? Um, and she's looked really, really good this season. So I'm surprised she didn't find that at some point in the game. So I would say I'd lean, like the result makes sense, but I would lean further to a bit outline for this to keep this.
Yeah, the double doink was certainly interesting from Rasmussen and funny, if not unfortunate for the Mariners. Um, Melbourne Victory won, Wellington Phoenix won. This took everyone by surprise pre-game with Beatty Goad just casually dropping like 2 hours before kickoff that this was going to be her final home game as a Victory player. I think, and we'll do more of this over the next couple of weeks. But I mean, Beatty Goad, what a career, what a player.
So mad. I'm so mad at this. He is so good. But like I say, I'm so mad, but I can't be as mad as I want to be because I know she's busy doing like insane science stuff that's probably gonna like save people's lives at the end of it. So like as annoyed as I am, I'm like swings and roundabouts. Yes, we lose an incredible footballer, but so annoying. And they're gonna be so different without her. She has an unreal work rate and is really fast and really technical. I don't know who or how they're going to replace her. But good luck to Victor. I would
I
not want to
mean,
be in that position.
no,
Speedy go.
and I don't believe this has been made official yet, but they've only got a couple of weeks to work it out because, based on people I've spoken to, her last game is going to be against Sydney FC on
Hmm.
the 28th of December. So they've got 2 weeks to find a replacement for Beatty Goad, and that's not an easy task. I mean, her game knowledge is just, top notch. Um, you talked about it, her tenacity, her work rate, just her skills. But no, she's going on to bigger and better things. Doing life saving work and all of that. She's just someone I hope that we don't lose to the game itself. I'm not necessarily suggesting coaching or anything like that, but I'd love to see her pop up in the media. Sort of like a pre-game panel vibe. I listened to some of her commentary work during the Women's World Cup that she did with ABC Sport as part of their coverage of that tournament. She was so good at it. Is there anything Beatty Goat isn't good at? I think,
No,
it, like,
no.
it's so. I hope that we don't lose her to the game because losing someone like that would be, don't want to say the word detrimental, would hurt the game in Australia. I think we need more people like Beatty Goad, her knowledge, her and all that sort of fun stuff. But if she decides that she's done with this part of her life completely, then I don't think anyone can blame her in the slightest. The work that she's doing. I mean, she took parts of last season off to go do exams as part of her doctorate, I believe, or finish a research paper or whatever it was.
Something
Um,
insane.
Yeah, exactly. And we'll definitely talk more about this over the coming weeks. Once she's hung up the boots and completely finished her season, we might have to probably spend about as long talking about BD Goat as we did about Ante Juric and Sydney FC earlier in the show, and it
I
would
could,
be entirely deserved.
I could go for
Um,
longer. You could, like, I could talk about video games, but like, you'd have to stop me. You'd have to physically stop me. Then you're in charge.
um, talk about the game itself. Scoreless first half. Mania Elliott gave away a penalty. Alana Yantewski converted before Elliott turned hero, scoring in the 90th minute to draw the game for the Phoenix. The Wellington defense continues to improve week on week, but in attack, it's clear just how much they're missing Mariana Speckmeyer, isn't it, Burke?
Yeah, yeah. And unfortunately, they're not. Yeah, you're not going to find a, probably another player like Speckmeyer at this point in time. Um, but yeah, I think their defense is so solid. Like it's actually really good fun to watch. Um, we love watching Longo play. I think she's great. Um, and yeah, that the penalty taken by Janchevsky was also really good. He doesn't miss penalties as far as I have seen or heard of her. Um, so I imagine she would continue to give them full victory for a while because he did. She's taken over from Rachel Lowe, I believe, and I don't see anything changing anytime soon. Um, but yeah, I wasn't expecting that Wellington would come away with this draw, but the actual play for the goal was just so beautiful. It had to end in the back of the net. Anything less than would have been a disservice to football itself. It was gorgeous.
Yeah, no, I completely agree there. So on the victory, their season so far through 6 rounds: win, loss, win, draw, win, draw. Now they're sitting in third. They've got a tough stretch of games coming up. Travel away to Canberra. Let me pull it back up here. Away to Canberra, away to Sydney, home to the Wanderers, away to Brisbane, away to Newcastle, home to Perth, home to Sydney, and then a Melbourne derby over the next 6 weeks. There's a lot of tough fixtures in there. I don't know if this. Oh, and like last week as well, a very late winner against Perth, another game that probably could have ended in a draw. I mean, this is. I don't know. Are you seeing anything from the victory that might give you cause for concern that they can't keep up this early season form, or has it just been a couple of odd weeks?
Think they're doing what they did to us all last season, where they play really well for a couple of weeks, and then you're like, victory is good, and then they suddenly tank, and you're like, the wheels have fallen off, but then all of a sudden they're really good again. And you're like, yeah, this is good. Victory is good. And then the wheels fall off again. And it's just like, they're just constantly keeping runs out assist because the wheels keep falling off and they just don't stay on. Um, and I don't think that's going to be made any easier losing. Because any sort of tough fixture becomes immediately tougher when you lose someone like that from the squad because then you've got everyone around where God would be playing with someone new, essentially. Um, so that will not be easy or fun for them, probably. It'll be fun for everyone else. That's what's been.
On the Wellington side of things, that's now points in 3 straight after 3 straight to start the season. After 3 straight to start the season without a point. Home to Sydney, away to Melbourne, home to Perth, away to Wanderers, away to Adelaide, home to Newcastle in the next month. There's not. I know travel becomes a factor, but I think it's also mitigated a little bit by the fact that that Perth Glory game is not away; it's at home. Um, can they sort of? Well, I guess I'll phrase the question this way: do you think there's any sides that they're coming up against? So Sydney, Melbourne, Perth, Western Sydney, Adelaide, and Newcastle that they can take advantage of and sort of begin to make inroads inside the top 6 over the next month?
if they're not taking advantage of Sydney's absolute flop era, they would be the silliest people. I'm hoping that every single person just comes off the game, every single fan possible, just that they're getting random people on the streets in and being like, yeah, yell for the people in yellow. Everyone else we hate. Because yeah, I really think that could be a super, super interesting fixture, and I hope that it is. And I hope, given Wellington's, quality defense, it could, I guess they'd be likely to get a draw, and I really want them to get a win because I think it'd be huge for them. Even though Sydney obviously aren't firing on all cylinders, you'll still beat them knowing you've beat the Sydney FC, you know? Like it's a huge confidence thing.
Yeah, no, I agree. Very fascinating matchup. We'll look ahead just to the fixtures coming up this weekend. So round 7, Adelaide United and Melbourne City on Friday afternoon, 4:50 p.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Time kickoff, 4:20 p.m. local time, followed by Western Sydney and Perth Glory at 7 p.m. also on Friday. Saturday gives us a triple header, 2 p.m. local time kickoff for Wellington versus Sydney. No, sorry, that's 2 p.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Time kickoff, 4 p.m. local time. My apologies, I got my hours wrong there. Jets versus Raw at 5 p.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Time. Also 5 p.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Time for Canberra and Melbourne Victory, and 5 p.m. on Sunday for the Mariners and Western United. Burke, what fixture out of those 6 stands out the most to you as a must-watch?
Still the Sydney Wellington game for me. Like without a doubt. It's going to be so interesting to see if Wellington can get the win. And I really want them to. Sorry to Sydney. Not really that sorry, but
I mean, I tend to want to go the same way, but I also don't want to pick the same thing just for the sake of it. I think, for me, I think I'm most keen to see Western Sydney and Perth. I think that the Wanderers coming off an incredibly strong win, and yet they still sit in last place because of goal difference. Which they worked off their loss to the Raw in terms of the goal difference department, but they're still sitting just behind Sydney in 11th on goal difference. Um, I mean, if there was ever a time they were going to get themselves at the bottom of the table, I think this is it. They're coming up against the Perth Glory side, who sit above them in 10th. With a win, Perth Glory, pending results, could shoot right into the top 6. And yeah, because I see the look on your face. So
damn.
literally from
So
4th
bad.
through to 10th, they're separated by 2 points. It's 9, 9, 8, 8, 7, 7, 7. In terms of points. So Perth Glory sitting at the bottom are only 2 points behind Adelaide, but there is a 6-goal differential between them. So look, I think if Stephen Peters, who said after Unite round that he looks at every New South Wales game as a home game because of his history here in this state, and if he can get that through to the players that treat these road games like they're a home game, then I think they're in with a good shout of being able to do something at Wonderland on Friday night. So sure to check out all those games, get around it, all the usual places to watch and tune into. I'll go to the one listener question that we have this week now from Chris on Blue Sky. What's been your biggest surprise in the Dubs so far this season? Teams overperforming, underperforming? Burke, I think I know exactly where you're going to go with this one, and you're going to say Sydney FC, aren't you?
I have to, unfortunately. Like even yeah, again, given the off-season turnovers, whatever, blah blah blah, you would expect them not to be as good. But I did not expect them to be crossing on that one specifically. Kind of.
I just realised we forgot to talk about Perth versus Adelaide, so we'll
I was
quickly
I
jump
was
that one
wondering
in.
when you were going to clock that because I was just going to wait until the end, being like, hey, did you want to? You hate Perth that much,
Uh,
do you?
I jumped around the run sheet so much this week that I completely spaced on it. Perth 3, Adelaide 1. Stephen Peters said post game it was the best football the Glory have played all season. Gabby Holler got her first 2 goals for the Glory. Chinema opened the scoring in the first half. I believe her first goal for the Glory as well.
Yeah, first goal for the dub
So
in general.
yeah. Wait, what? Her first goal in the dub? I thought she scored. Okay, cool. Yeah, there we go. I've literally got here in the rundown notes. They now sit just 2 points back and forth for
Oh,
Adelaide. So we just discussed that. A late red card to Matilda McNamara for Dogso. So she, along with Krasiniak, 1 week suspensions by the match review panel. Look, this red card I wasn't convinced by. For me, it reminded me of the red card in the Brisbane versus Newcastle game at Unite round last year, which was also for Dogso, where you could see why the ref gave it, but it was overturned, and the Brisbane player didn't have to serve a suspension. In terms of the Adelaide perspective, Emily Condon is a bright spot in this game, but she was a concussion substitute 10 minutes into the game for Erin Healy, so she didn't start. Chelsea Orba, bit of a bright spot as well with the goal. I mean, just did you have any real thoughts on this game other than Perth equals good? Question mark.
exactly that. Exactly that. Like, are they? I'm not convinced yet. Um, yeah, not convinced yet. But I'm glad to see them get a win.
Yeah, I mean, look, I enjoy watching sides coached by Stephen Peters. I highly rate him as a coach. I've sung his praises already throughout the week on the podcast. If you want to hear, go back and listen to past episodes. Um, I also gave my thoughts on the Glory Wanderers. Already talked about that. So I think, look, that's the game I'm most looking forward to this week. I want to see Perth make it 2 in a row. I think they're a good chance to make it 2 in a row. Um, but yeah, I don't have any other thoughts on this game, even from an Adelaide perspective. And Burke shaking her head. You don't either. Fantastic. So that is us done for this week. Apologies to Perth Glory and apologies to Adelaide United. I actually wrote quite a lot of notes on this game. I
You
just
did.
completely forgot it moving around the rundown. My sincerest apologies. I will make sure that doesn't happen again in future weeks where I forget a game. We are still going to keep going over the Christmas break, so we will have new episodes on Christmas Day and New Year's Day. We're going to take less of a focus on the weekend's action. We're going to make them more sort of like, guess you'd use the term like timeless episodes, where like we're going to look back on 2024. We're going to look ahead to 2025. So that way you can listen to them throughout the holiday period and not feel like you've missed anything. Because we know people, they like to take time off, they like to relax over Christmas. So we're gonna deal with it that way. I think it's going to work a lot better. So be sure to tune into those. Remember to like, share, subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. Leave us a 5-star rating if you're listening on Spotify, whatever podcasting platform you choose. Um, did you agree with any of our thoughts about Ante Juric and Sydney FC? Leave a comment. You can do that. We love to hear from you. We'll put a call out for questions. Get your questions in. We absolutely love to hear them. We love talking about them. So yeah, I think that covers everything, Burke. Hopefully you enjoy the football over the next few weeks. I know I'm certainly looking forward to enjoying the football over the next few weeks, and I hope all of you, the listeners, enjoy your A-League Women action over the holidays. But that will do for this episode of the Dubcast, part of the Roundball Australia Network. Burke, thank you so much for joining us again.
Thank you once again for having me. And if anyone's watching this like on YouTube, I hope you enjoy watching the sun having slowly set on me. Sorry about the state of my lighting.
All right. Well, as I said, we'll be back next week on Wednesday, which is Christmas Day, with our look back at 2024. Thank you very much for listening, and goodbye.